Hello, welcome back to George Past the Post. Now, a few weeks ago, I did a general video about MPs switching parties during their term and looked at the question of whether they should have to trigger a by-election so that the voters in their constituency can approve the decision. And this topic is subject of renewed interest, at least in my view, because of events unfolding in Canada. Now, at the last election in 2025, the Liberals led by Mark Carney, they got 169 seats, and the magic number is 172 to get a majority, so they were just short and formed a minority government. Since then, well, currently there are 3 seats that are vacant, and there are by-elections next week, which I'll come to. Because of various defections, 5 defections, 4 Conservatives and 1 NDP MP have switched to the Liberals. And with 3 by-elections pending, the Liberals, following another Conservative defection yesterday, are now at 171. So they're 1 short, so they just need to win 1 of the 3 by-elections next week. Now, 2 of them are in very safe Liberal seats. The third one is more problematic. It's a Quebec riding where the Liberal candidate literally only won by 1 vote in 2025, and the result was annulled effectively because it was so close, and so the election is so a by-election is being held. That's a tricky one for the Liberals. So they need 1 to get a technical majority. Ideally, they would want 173. Because then that means it's speaker proof, and obviously 174, well, the more seats you have, the better, right? With the speaker, it would have 172, that includes the speaker, and the speaker only votes when the votes are tied, so you could potentially have issues getting votes through. And politically, it matters a lot whether the Liberals have a majority or not, because obviously if you don't have a majority, if you're just a minority, you don't have a formal coalition agreement with other parties, you have to rely on the opposition to basically do anything. And at any point you have the threat of the opposition parties could all gang up and vote down the government. But if you have a majority, then you can run full term if that's what you wish to do. But the issue I'd like to explore is obviously this is not a judgment on the politics. Politics is politics. The Liberals are simply doing what they're trying to get a majority via defections and by winning by-elections. But more of is this something which is desirable in the long run, overall, irrespective of the current situation? Because effectively what would be happening is the Liberals would, despite the election result where they fell short of a majority, they would gain a majority via defections and winning by-elections. Now, there have been cases, I think, for example, there have been cases where a government has started off with a majority and then through defections and by-elections have lost their majority. I think in the UK, the 92 to 97 major government, they started off with a majority of 21 and then they lost their majority. I think it was in 96. So they finished their term as a minority government. But this is the other way around. This is the government going from a minority to a majority, obviously without having an election. And a way to maybe think about this is, given with politics, it's always about the momentum, and currently the momentum in Canada is with the Liberals. But just 18 months ago, they were miles behind the Conservatives. They were going to lose in a historic landslide. And in fact, that's why Trudeau was forced to resign in the end. So the momentum can shift. So imagine if the momentum was the other way around. Now, I'm not saying in the current Parliament that the Conservatives would get the necessary 20 plus defections that they would need. But there could be a scenario one day where you have a government that one party forms a government, either a small majority or a minority government. But then, through defections and by-elections, the main opposition party, maybe they get to a position where they can get a majority. And then it would be possible, and this has happened in some places, where, because they then have a new majority, they can vote out the existing government and replace that government with themselves without having a general election. Now, of course, this is all allowed within the rules. MPs are individuals, they are elected as individuals, their constituents are technically there voting for them as a person, not the party, so they're free to defect and redefect and do what they wish, and they are accountable to their voters in the next election. And it's the same for, the Westminster system. The government is led by the person that can command the confidence of the House of Commons, and if that changes in the Parliament, during the Parliament, then of course the Prime Minister would change. But it's a big step, whether it's moving from a minority government to a majority, or in fact the party that governs as a whole changing through defections and by-elections and not through a election of the whole country. So, for example, whether the Liberals get a majority or not is now in the hands of the voters in 3 ridings. There are 343 ridings, so very small percentage of the population effectively get to determine, do the Liberals continue that for the next while with a majority or not. And so the rest of the Canadian voters don't have a say in that. And this is not to make party political points, of course. If in Canada there was a Conservative government in a similar position and they thought we can get a majority through defections and not through a general election, they'd be doing it. Or an opposition party that thought we can maybe form the government. But my main point of this video, 7.5 minutes in, is whatever the current situation might be, and it is quite rare for defections in themselves to change the type of government that you have. Is this a wise precedent to set? Especially when one day the momentum may be with the opposition, who might think, well, if a previous government was able to change its status via by-elections and defections, why can't we do the same? Food for thought for those of you who have made it through so far. Have a lovely evening. Goodbye.